Hello, this is a tutorial on how to create a four-wheel tank drive code for an FTC robot. The first step is to create a new program. For today's example, I will be using a blank robot, but you can also use an FTC arm and gripper. I'm going to name it YouTube Test. And here we go, we now have our robot. The first step is to open up the schematic editor. Under the schematic editor, we tell Labview where everything is plugged in, where the motors are plugged into, where the motor controllers are plugged into. So you're going to want to have your robot sitting by while you do this. For today's example, I will have in sensor port 1 a DC motor controller, and daisy chained off of that, I will have a second DC motor controller. Now, since our final goal is to have a four-wheel drive, we need to put both of the right motors on one DC motor controller and both of the left motors on the other DC motor controller. We cannot have one right and one left in the same motor controller. It will not allow us to do this. So I'm going to name this right motors, and I will name this one left motors. Plugged into these two, I will have left motor 1 and left motor 2. Oops, this should be left, and this should be right. Now I'll create these two motors and name them right motor 1 and right motor 2. This is very important, as I said before, both left motors on one DC motor controller and both right motors on a second DC motor controller. Now we can save this and close it. The next step is to open up remote control. Let's call this teleop. You create that. Now you have a few options here. You can choose arcade. Arcade drive controls all four of the motors using only one joystick. But for this example, I will be using tank drive. Tank drive controls one set of motors with the left joystick and one set of motors with the right joystick. For now, we're going to select one motor under left motor. I'm going to choose left motor 1, and under right motor, I'm going to choose right motor 1. I'm going to set the power to 100. You can set it to whatever you would like to. And then I'm going to save it and generate code up here in the upper left. Generate code takes a few minutes, so I'll unpause it. Oh, you have to name it. Let's call it teleop. And while that's generating, I'm going to pause it. Great. So it's finished generating the code, and now we have this. What this code will do right now is the left joystick will power the left motor, and the right joystick will power the right motor. But what we want it to do is to have the left joystick power the left motor 1 and left motor 2. How we accomplish this is by selecting the drop-down arrow. It now adds a second motor here and a second speed wire right here. So we have to choose left motor 2, and since both of the left motors will be spinning at the same speed all of the time, we take the speed for motor 1 and we wire it into the speed for motor 2. That means whatever signal comes out of this right here will get sent to both of the motors, so they will spin at the same speed. Now we have to do this to the right hand side also. We select the drop down, select right motor 2, and then we wire the right power into both of the motors. If we were to have the right motor and the left motor on the same DC motor controller, it would give me an error telling me that I cannot send one signal to both motor controllers. So we have to keep them on separate motor controllers. Another thing to keep in mind is up here, where it says enabled, we have to hit the side switch to make sure that at the end of teleop, it disables all four of our motors. After we have added these motors, and we have remembered to wire the power into both of them, then we can save it and download it to a robot. Your code will now, as the left joystick, control both left motors, and the right joystick control both right motors. Thanks for watching.